Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. And welcome to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. I'm your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the intern himself, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss, so let's waste no more time. Hashtag ODPH if you're joining with us on social media, because we have to talk some NBA news.
We might. I don't know. Nothing really happened.
Oh, no, because we had a special edition breaking down LeBron joining the Lakers. And
yeah, that did happen.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier in NBA free agency, Golden State said, I'll raise you. And they decided to pull off
State, hold my beer.
A blockbuster move. They added Boogie Cousins to their roster after they lost JaVale McGee to said Lakers. Pat, what's your thoughts on that?
Ladies and gentlemen, your NBA Western Conference All-Star starting five of the next 5+ years is your Golden State starting five of the next 5+ years.
This move was insane to hear that it actually happened, because I figured Cousins would have gone to L.A. or he would have stayed with New Orleans with Anthony Davis.
I thought he would have stayed. I thought he was having a good time.
I did too, but I guess he wants to get a ring, and I can fully understand that. But I'm also kind of puzzled because he's now going to go into a nucleus that I think he's going to fit in well.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see how content he's going to be being not the starter, not the main face of the franchise.
Yeah, it's definitely a nucleus that he doesn't have to rush things now. Before it was, okay, you got to get back ASAP. Now it's, hey, if you're back, great. If you're not, take your time.
No, this is a brilliant move by Golden State, and especially, in my opinion, it stole the thunder, if you will, from LeBron's signing.
Absolutely, because what was the big talk before Demarcus Cousins signed? LeBron. Who's going to go to L.A.? Who's going to join him in L.A.? Are they going to keep this player, that player? It was all Lakers-centric. And then as soon as the Boogie Cousins news dropped, the win went right out of that sale.
Yeah, it was really smart by Golden State that they did not get rattled by LeBron coming out west, and I didn't think they would, but this move makes so much sense.
Oh, yeah.
Cousins signed a league minimum. I believe it was 1 year, $5 million, if I'm not mistaken.
5 and change, I think, yeah.
So it was essentially the same contract, I think, that Swaggy P has.
And it was the leftover money from when Kevin Durant reworked his deal.
And Durant has been smart about this, because there was some talk that maybe, and this was just a crapshoot, if you will, that he was going to opt out of Golden State and join LeBron in L.A., which would have really helped LeBron's case for going to the Lakers and really built an all-star team around him if you got the two best players on the planet, arguably, on your squad. But he did not. He reworked his contract, so it allowed Golden State to make a move like this. They are in it to win the whole thing this year. I'm struggling to see how they're going to lose more than 5 games the entire year.
I'm struggling how they're going to lose anything less than 5 games. I genuinely think you could see a team that finishes the regular season with like 1 loss.
I mean, on paper, it should all click. It all depends on how Cousins is in that locker room and how he's reacting with the other players. Now, I know Steph Curry was all in about it. He's excited. Draymond Green's excited about it, as they should be. Because
of course they are. It's the shiny new toy.
Well, if you will. But it makes sense for them because now, I mean, they definitely upgraded at the center position.
They got a third Splash Brother.
And he's known to contribute, and he will add points to that team.
I'll say in 48 games last year, the man had like 108 threes.
Yeah.
For a guy down low.
Yeah, he can definitely shoot the rock. So it makes sense to add him to that roster, and just depends on how it clicks. Because anytime you hear about all-star players getting together on a team, you know, the expectations are through the roof. I mean, I think...
Oh, yeah. Not 5, not 6, not 7.
Ironically, this is, what, the 8-year anniversary as we're taping?
Yes.
Of the infamous Big Three in Miami. So, I mean, sometimes it works out great, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, you can look when Karl Malone and Gary Payton joined up in L.A. their first time around, or the last go-around. And, I mean, the expectations were through the roof, and it didn't really pan out so much.
Oh, yeah.
So now, looking at it, Golden State is the team to beat. Not that they weren't already, but I think you just put a big exclamation point at the end.
I would say the expectations, if they weren't already astronomical, just got raised even higher.
Yes, and as we were taping, Kawhi Leonard is still a San Antonio Spur.
Yep.
There is no new news about that. So, Pat, what is your feeling on that? Do you think that he's going anywhere, or is he staying put?
I honestly have no idea. I don't think even he knows, because this is one instance where, and we'll get to some other instances later with, like, we'll get to Carmelo Anthony in a minute, where, like, with Carmelo, you're hearing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's technically still with the Thunder, but he can talk to other teams, but you're still reading and seeing stuff about teams that are interested. Kawhi, there ain't nothing.
No,
there's teams that, like, people are floating out. They're like, oh yeah, he'd be a good fit on this team or that team, but there's not anything from, like, oh yeah, so and so's interested.
And the funny thing is, we really haven't heard too much from him about this whole situation.
I'll say the only thing I've heard was that right after the LeBron deal was that the talks between the Lakers and the Spurs became a little more animated, a little more, engaging. But from what I read, every time the Lakers offered a deal for Kawhi, it got progressively worse.
Well, as we said on last week's episode too, the Spurs are a very smart organization that if you're going to take their MVP, and this is now Tony Parker is now in Charlotte, I believe.
Yes.
So it's just Manu Ginobili from the original glory days, shall we say, of the Spurs. So if you're going to take Kawhi Leonard, who is MVP caliber.
I'm saying that's even if Manu Ginobili comes back, he could retire.
Yeah, I mean, I think he retires at this point. I mean, I can't really see him coming back at this stage.
No.
But that's just my opinion. But with Kawhi, you have an MVP-type caliber player.
Right, but you also have an MVP-type caliber player who wants nothing to do with owner, nothing to do with front office management, and from what I'm reading, nothing to do with the head coach.
Yes. So if you have this, you have to move him at some point, but do you send him out west or do you send him east? Because that's ultimately what it boils down to. And if you're the Lakers, now you went from celebrating that you have LeBron to, dare I say, are you in a little bit of a panic mode?
Yeah.
Because the only parts you've added, JaVale McGee, you've added Lance Stevenson, which that is just mind-boggling to me.
Hello, HBO. I'd like a reality TV series, please.
Especially with his history with LeBron.
Yep.
Rajon Rondo?
Yep.
Is that going to be enough to beat Golden State at this stage?
No.
I don't see it.
I mean, unless you put Golden State in a three-legged race while they're playing. No.
No, so you definitely need to get LeBron more help if he's going to win next season.
Well, and I think LeBron understands that, they're not ready to win now, even with those parts added. That's why he signed a 4-year deal with no opt-out.
Oh, I grant you that. But I think for him at this stage, I mean, he has put a lot of tread on his tires.
Oh, yes, without a doubt.
So you're not exactly getting somebody in their prime for the next 4 years.
Right.
There'll be an eventual decline because it just happens to everybody. It's the father time syndrome, as we've discussed many times on this show. And with LeBron, he has done all he could in Cleveland, and I can't see any real animosity for him leaving. There was no real jerseys burning.
There's probably somebody who's real pissed.
There's going to be some.
There's somebody.
But that happens anytime a star player leaves a team.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. But this time around, he did the right thing and how he left. It was very quiet. It was very, I don't want to say really under the radar, because the minute he broke, it was all over the media, no matter where you turned. But now it kind of goes, okay, you don't have enough to beat Golden State this year. And let's be honest about that.
They didn't have enough to beat Golden State before Boogie Cousins.
Right. Now you need to go get some help. Is there some help on the way? As we were taping, Kawhi Leonard still is in San Antonio, but I cannot see him going to the Lakers.
No.
I just don't. Maybe the Clippers, because I think the Clippers have gutted their team enough that they have some cap money, they have some picks they can move.
Say, Lord have mercy, they need something. Their one diehard fan gave up on him, is now a Laker fan.
It's very tough right now, because especially of how they dismantled that team and all the talent they had. I mean, they went
how messy it was.
Yeah, and it was just one of the worst breakups, I guess you could say, from players and a team in recent memory.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that even comes close in terms of what I immediately think of is when Shaq and Kobe and the Lakers. And I know it's not the same instance, but that's the only thing that comes close in comparison.
It's close. It is close. I mean, I think if they had won some championships, it would even be worse.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really was kind of real puzzling with the Lakers split.
The thing with the Clippers, all the talent was there, just they couldn't put the pieces together.
No, and sometimes that happens. I mean, it's a weird circumstance that it does. It's not to say that they didn't have a talented roster. They did, but just sometimes they can't. It just doesn't work out for whatever reason. And if Kawhi does go there, maybe that's the start of the rebuilding.
Maybe.
It would make sense. I still think if he's going to move anywhere, he's going to move at the trade deadline, and he's going to go east. I just don't see him going anywhere but the Eastern Conference.
Right, and I can't just see the San Antonio Spurs knowing full well that even if they don't trade him at all this season, he's gone. Like, for all intents and purposes, he's gone, and they'll get nothing for it. I know full well at some point they're going to trade him, because better to trade him and get something for it than to let him sit on the bench to do nothing and then get nothing for it.
Oh, absolutely. No, he'll move. He'll move by the trade deadline at the absolute latest. I still think he goes east. I still think that Philly and Boston have to be in play. Albeit, though, I don't really know what they could give up and really move without hurting their nucleus that they built with young talent.
Let's say, because San Antonio is going to want a king's ransom for him.
Yeah, as they should. And, I mean, there's only a few teams that will give up that to get him. I mean, you do get an MVP caliber player, so it does make sense.
Yeah.
But it's going to be very costly. And as for the Celtics, there's so many rumors now about Kyrie Irving is not staying around past next season. Could he be in the mix for it?
Maybe.
I mean, it is possible. There's a lot of talk that Kyrie wants to come play for the Knicks, and he's not taking his player option. Now, we have not heard anything official, but this is very, very heavily rumored. I personally would love to see this happen.
Oh, yeah, I think a lot of people would.
Because the Knicks will have some cap room cleared out that they could sign a couple max contracts if they want to.
So they got enough young talent coming up that they don't have to rely on Kyrie 100% of the time.
No, and early reports are everybody that was booing Kevin Knox coming to the Knicks are eating their words right now. He is having a great summer league thus far.
Figured, and of course, the other big one is Carmelo Anthony is getting let go by the Thunder, essentially.
Yeah, which, I mean, it makes sense on a lot of different reasons. He's not happy with the direction and his role on the team.
Right.
And with Paul George staying there, they still have a 1-2 punch with him and Westbrook. Get rid of the poison contract of the $28 million for the year, especially for somebody that you said has to come off the bench. I mean, that's
that's a lot of money for somebody coming off the bench.
Exactly, and now he has the freedom to kind of go where he wants to. Houston makes a lot more sense than LA.
They've lost shooters.
They do love shooters, and I think that he'd be a nice complement to Harden and Paul.
And I think he could put whatever pass he's got with D'Antoni behind him for, hey, we can do something here.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that he wants to win, and I mean, he's like LeBron. He's getting near the end.
I would say he's further along than LeBron, but yeah, no, he definitely realizes that the proverbial window is closing.
Yeah, and it would make a lot of sense for him to go there. For me, that makes more sense than him trying to go to LA, because LA is not ready.
I'll say it's just going to be more the same of what he's had in years past. You know. Wait and see, hope the team works out, and hope for the best.
Yeah, and I think with Houston, they definitely need to make some moves. They did lose some key players on the offseason. I think Trevor Ariza is in Phoenix.
Yep.
Which Phoenix signing Devin Booker to a max contract, smart move.
Congratulations to him.
Between him and Ayton, they're building that franchise. They will be turning it around rather quickly should they all stay healthy. And
gonna add a couple more pieces, definitely.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're making steps in the right direction. So the West is getting more difficult to win in.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm really kind of surprised when players are not trying to go to the East, which after Boston and Philly, there's a distinct drop-off in talent right now.
There's a heavy drop-off.
Yes, I mean, it's pretty wide open. So to see how it's going to shape up next season, I think might be even more interesting than this offseason.
Oh, yeah.
Because with Melo still out there, I mean, that's the biggest name, I believe, still in the free agent market. Kawhi is still in play. Albeit, though, we're not sure what's going to happen. And like I said, right now, I don't see him moving because I don't think teams are ready to give up a lot of assets for him. But when we get around the free agency deadline, the trade deadline next season, I think you'll see some movement.
I'll say I don't think San Antonio's asking price will go down any bit, though.
No, it won't. But if there's a team, like, let's just throw one out there. Let's say Philly is, right there, that they want to make a move and they think, okay, this is going to put us over the top. Would they be willing to part with some young talent? Possibly.
Part with some young talent for potentially a rental.
Rental, unless they can get him to fully buy into there, which he should. I mean, if you're going there and you know the talent they have in the East, and if you can consistently be playoff contending for the finals every year.
I'll say, because you can almost draw a comparison to Manny Machado in Baltimore in Major League Baseball, where you have a player with all the talent in the world who they're looking to trade. They're not trading him yet, but Machado's contract is up at the end of the year.
Right, but I think for him, it's a different kind of look.
Right,
because I think with Kawhi, though, for him to leave San Antonio definitely wants to get something back. That I don't see that they would be willing to do a quote-unquote rental deal. That they want to get some talent that will build from them for the future. And depending on who the team is that takes them, I can't see them just unloading their roster unless they feel that they can win right now and they can talk him into staying.
Right.
Because I think that that's the big key for him to be happy where he is and him to win. And you can build off him for the next 5 years at least.
Yep.
That's the key factor. But let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPH. There's been a lot of basketball moves in the NBA in this offseason. We want to know what you're thinking. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH, and there was a hell of a card, UFC 226, this past Saturday.
Boy, and did some stuff come out of it.
Man, did some stuff come off. Now, we were talking with Luke Vizengard and Vince Ciotoli from Crow's Nest MMA about it on the show. In fact, this card was so big, we dedicated an entire show talking about it. And it delivered. It delivered and then some. To break it down quickly, the prelim fight that stuck out for me was Paulo Costa beating Uriah Hall. 12-0 now, stopping him in the second round. Costa is looking like a fast-rising star in the middleweight division.
I was saying beating Uriah Hall is a little feather in your cap there.
Yeah, it definitely is, and he's, breaking into that top 10 category, he's got to start getting some, I would say, top 5 competition, if you will, very shortly.
Yeah.
He's earning it because he has that, I don't want to say John Jones look to him,
Right.
but he is winning impressively, and that is showing a lot of potential for an up-and-coming star, which the UFC could desperately use some new stars.
Absolutely.
Because I know when you rely on certain old ones, then it kind of gets murky, and we will talk about that just a little bit later. But we have to break down the main card in a nutshell now. Now, going into this, Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega was postponed because Holloway had, I believe it was concussion-like syndrome or symptoms.
Yeah.
And we hope he has a very, very speedy recovery. I definitely want to see that fight. Ortega is waiting to have his featherweight title bout. So with that being gone, they definitely did some moving and shaking with the main card. Gohan Saki versus Khalil Roundtree. I would say I was kind of surprised by this because I thought with Saki and his kickboxing background, I thought he was going to definitely get this win. I think it was going to be very contested, but Roundtree just came running in there and just knocked him out first round.
So you could argue he hit him like a tree.
You could argue that. And I tell you what, he did some damage. I know that you were definitely rooting for him because he came out to a certain rapper that you definitely like.
Logic.
Yes. So, if you want to get on Pad's good side for MMA, you got to come out to Logic, and you'll automatically become
Take notes.
A big fan. Going into the next bout, and for me, I was extremely happy with this outcome because I am a huge Anthony Showtime Pettis fan.
Showtime?
Since back in the WEC days. And I was happy that this fight finally happened with Michael Chiesa because this was supposed to happen on the Conor McGregor debacle card. I don't know how else you want to describe that mess.
That's pretty accurate.
I was really upset that fight didn't happen then. There was a lot of trash talk going into this. I know Chiesa was having a weight cut issue for this fight.
Yeah.
So when Pettis got in there, Pettis looked like the old Showtime.
Showtime?
And I tell you what, I was ecstatic to see it because he wasn't afraid to go to the ground with Chiesa.
No.
And he went there, and one thing people don't realize, because you don't get points for it in MMA, which I should ask Luke and Vince next time they're on the show, when you fight off your back and you're attacking from your back, you should be getting some points from the judges. I don't understand why they do this. I think maybe it's due to Octagon control. Somebody shoot us a line on ODPH hashtag and let us know.
I think they may not get actual points, but it might factor into a judge's decision. That it might cross their mind, or they might think about it when they're going. If the fight goes to judge's decision, and it's really close, and I'm trying to, they're thinking back to the fight and trying to pick out one moment where a fighter look more dominant than the other one, and that one may stick out in their mind.
Yeah, it definitely should. I mean, I don't understand how they don't really give it more points than it should, because Pettis was working off his back, and I tell you what, when he snuck on the triangle choke, it was lights out. And I was happy. I mean, me as a fan, I was happy to see him get back on his winning ways. It was definitely a highly contested bout, and especially when Pettis beat him at his own game.
Yeah.
Because Chiesa is known for his ground skill, and take nothing away from him. He is definitely a contender at 155. I think he's going to be fighting at 170, he said after this. So
yeah. I think given his weight cut issues, I believe that was what he said, something to that effect.
And that's smart, too, because if you're having that much difficulty making weight, and I'm not making light of anybody missing weight, especially it's a very tough, difficult process when you're fighting in MMA. If you feel that you can't make a certain class and you think you can make it to a one that's more suitable to you, by all means, go for it. I think I was hearing Yoel Romero is now looking at fighting at light heavyweight now since he was having problems.
Better to cut weight to something that is more easily attainable and healthier, rather than putting yourself, your body, and your life in jeopardy just for a weight cut that is not.
Yeah, and I think for Chiesa, it's going to help him. I think at 170, I'd like to see him fight at 170. We've seen a lot of fighters move up from lightweight recently. RDA and Cowboy Cerrone come to mind from moving up from 155 to 170 and having success. So Chiesa could be the next one, but Anthony Showtime Pettis definitely got his name back out there, and he looked like Showtime of old, so I was happy to see it. And especially in the lightweight division, he can definitely make some noise, so we're happy to see what's going to happen next with him. Going into the next bout was a little switch around because Yancy Medeiros was injured, or he was pulled from the fight. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but Paul Felder substituted in to fight Platinum Mike Perry. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, it was a good fight, that's for sure.
Definitely was. Felder jumped up in weight class. He usually fights at 155, but he stepped up to fight at 170.
Shout out to him for that.
Absolutely. When fighters step up, especially on short notice, to fight, heavy competition at that weight class, any weight class really, it is noteworthy that they want to step up and entertain. And it was definitely an entertaining fight. It was no slouch fest. Perry definitely outstruck him a little bit, though, and definitely just by a little bit. I mean, it was very close, and Perry was working a couple more takedowns, and it just happened to work on his favor. So he's now back on the winning track by decision. So that fight was very entertaining, but dare I say, and I will admit, I was disappointed about this fight. I can't even put into words how upset.
You're being kind.
I'm trying to be kind.
I'm not going to be.
Pat, then you know what? I'm going to let you take this one.
No, I'll let you intro this one. I'm going to save my piece.
All right. Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are a fan of the WWE, we may be cutting promos on this part.
I have no real words to say about this.
Hot garbage.
Pat, I'm just here. The mic is handed to you.
This is just an absolute joke. You have Francis Ngannou, who, you look up the YouTube highlight reel, you will see chin uppercuts where he just drops people. He dropped Alistair Overeem, which made all of us collectively gasp, yell, and almost fall backwards in our chairs. He's got a highlight reel of knockouts. This guy's a freak of nature. There was talk when he was making all that noise that he's the next big thing in the heavyweight division. He's the guy you got to look out for. So you go into this fight with him and Derek Lewis. And even if you're a casual fan, you might not know the names, but if you're diehards like us, you're going, all right, heavyweights, chiclets are going to be flying. This one ain't going decision. And you get into the first round, and the first round is what I like to call ballroom dancing. Essentially where the fight starts and they just spin in a circle going around and around and around. Whether it's the waltz, whether it's, the Texas two-step, take your pick, they were ballroom dancing. Which is understandable in some fights. You watch all the video and you watch all the footage and you study your opponent and they come out and they do something you're not quite used to. You want to figure them out. Okay, I can understand that. But then it goes on for the second round. And by the midway point of the third round, collectively between the two heavyweights, you had 15 total strikes.
Yeah.
For two heavyweights. Now, for those who aren't quite in the know, UFC's rounds, if it's a non-championship or non-main event fight, are 3 5-minute rounds. So about midway through the third round, you're about 12 minutes into the fight. Mm-hmm. Which, 12 minutes into the fight, I'm sorry, you should know what your opponent's doing or have an idea or throw something. Now, Derek Lewis and both of us agree on this, Derek Lewis gets a bit of a pass simply because he was fighting injured.
Yeah, he said I believe it was the end of the first corner, he told his corner, or the end of the first round rather, he told his corner he hurt his back.
Right, which I've never fought professionally. I've never fought amateur. But I know trying to do anything when you have a back that hurts in any way, shape, or form is not easy.
No, it's not, and especially I think he's had a history of back spasm issues.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly the definitive degree of them, but he was definitely fighting somewhat hurt.
Right, which when you're fighting hurt, and especially when it's something as central to not just fighting but life in general as your back, it's hard to do anything. I've known people who have major back issues and had to have major back surgery. Prior to them having back surgery, they were in a ton of pain, and it was hard to do a lot of things.
Yeah, this fight was just puzzling. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try wording this as best I can. If I lose it, I apologize in advance to all our listeners. Ngannou has had highlight reel after highlight reel knockout. In fact,
Seriously, look up Overeem Ngannou knockout.
yeah, look at Alistair Overeem. It looked like a video game knockout of just how he was just dismantling opponents.
I was expecting the Mortal Kombat announcer guy to go fatality after that.
Yeah, and Derek Lewis has been known to knock people out too.
Yeah.
So I could understand in the first round if you're tentative.
Sure.
I get that.
You see that in some fights.
But at the same token, are you that worried about being knocked out? You have signed to fight. You have not signed to dance around the ring or cage and just stare your opponent down, like have a blinking contest. I don't understand. I understand one thing, that maybe the loss to Stipe Miocic was still in his head for whatever reason. Okay, I'm just trying to grasp.
See, I was grasping straws during the fight, and it crossed my mind. I'm like, what is he trying to show? Okay, hey, I can knock a guy out. I've got the power, but I've also got the stamina too.
Well, I know his cardio was called into question during the last fight, and I get that.
Right.
But are you really getting that winded walking around the octagon? I don't understand.
And it's not like he was running.
No, it definitely wasn't. It was like, I've only seen a few fights that were like this. I mean, the late Kimbo Slice and Houston Alexander comes to mind, where just guys that you know can deliver knockouts just really are being too tentative and not advancing or doing any type of action in the ring because they're really trying to, I don't know, see what the opponent was doing.
Right.
And I guess for me, just as a fight fan, I'm just going, okay, what the hell are we all doing here?
Yeah, this was for me, and I haven't been watching the sport as long as you have.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, if I had to date myself slightly, the first major fight I remember is GSP Koscheck.
Yeah.
So this to me was single-handedly the worst fight I have ever seen, whether it be pay-per-view, prelims, UFC on Fox, UFC on FX. I'll even go UFC on Speed because they had a card or two of that. This was single-handedly the worst thing I've ever seen. And I said to a couple of people afterwards, if I'm running the promotion or booking after this, Ngannou, in my mind, isn't making it off Fight Pass for like a year.
There's definitely got to be something to figure out there because Ngannou, like we said, has had highlight reel after highlight reel knockout. Like
it was arguably the next big star. Like you're one knockout, one championship win away from being the next face of the sport.
And Derek Lewis, like we said, has a somewhat pass because his back was hurt.
Right.
I will say, though, in the post-fight presser, he was saying, you know what, I didn't earn anything. In fact, I am...
Well, and this is after the entire card.
Yes. And he even said, he goes, I'm not worthy of a title shot. In fact, I got to rework myself back up the card, which I will say credit to him for owning up to it and say, okay, it was a bad performance. I definitely need to demonstrate something next time around.
Yes.
You know what, and I can fully get that because when you are on arguably the biggest card of the year
thus far,
and you put on a just forgettable performance like that?
A performance that the fans in the arena started chanting fight, 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 like this is a grade school fight between two kids.
When they started whipping out their cell phones like Bray Wyatt was coming to the ring for the WWE.
Yeah.
And you were seeing the quote-unquote Firefly effect, then you know there's a problem. If there was a beach ball involved, I wouldn't have doubted that, getting passed around the arena. Which is, I hate saying, because I'm a fan of both of these guys. I've seen their previous work, so I don't understand if they were just that in tune to not get knocked out in such a high-profile fight that they just forgot the fight. Like
I don't even know.
I'm trying to think of a way to put it politely in just saying when you throw a combined 26 strikes between two guys in 3 rounds.
Yep.
15 minutes. You can figure the math out. I'm not even going to attempt to. And for both of those guys, you have to get back to basics and figure out, okay, I know what went wrong. Now how do I make it right?
You basically got to treat it like you're back at square one.
Yeah, you're going to have to, because there's no way anybody is going to say, all right, we got to put these guys in a number one contender bout after that kind of performance.
God, no.
No way.
No.
And it's a shame because, like I said, both these guys have had great fights in the
had
past.
Promising futures.
But right now, I don't know what you do. And I think this will also justify what happens now with the winner of Miocic and Cormier.
Yeah.
And we're going to break this down a little bit. Now, obviously, this was the super fight that we don't get too often in MMA. So it lived up to the hype.
We'll say the last one was, Alvarez and Connor?
You could argue that was...
Because it was champion?
Yeah, when you have that going on, well, that was kind of interim and you can't really say that. I would say when it was BJ Penn fighting GSP.
Okay.
When you have guys that are in their primes, that are still fighting at a high level, that it's not one of these fights that you see, 10 years after.
We'll say it's not the Mayweather-Pacquiao.
Right. This is a fight that, okay, both these guys are still fighting at an elite level. There isn't a drop-off in skills. Stipe Miocic, heavyweight champion. Daniel Cormier, light heavyweight champion. Undefeated when he fought at heavyweight, by the way, Cormier.
Yep.
So they went in there. Stipe was looking like he had the upper hand.
Yeah.
And he was definitely working combos. He was definitely tagging Cormier. But Cormier adjusted enough in the first round. And he was working the inside game. He definitely landed a couple jabs inside that bloodied up Miocic.
Yeah.
Which I hope I'm pronouncing because I know they were saying his name was Miocic.
Yeah, there was a couple of pronunciations.
So I hope I'm pronouncing, no disrespect meant. But Cormier knocked him out in the first round, which I was shocked to see. I definitely thought Cormier is not known for the knockouts. He's more known for he'll take you down and grind you to get a win.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That is his style, and that's what you know what you're getting. Then we come into what I say about your heavyweight division. When you have Brock Lesnar, former WWE champion or former UFC champion, current WWE champion, one of your more high-profile stars.
Proverbial needle mover.
Yes, because there really isn't anybody generating that much star power in the UFC currently.
Conor McGregor's on hiatus. GSP's on hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
Ronda's gone. John's gone. DC's on the backward slide. I'm sorry, but he's 39, 40 years old.
He's eventually going to be out of there.
He's going to be gone. Bisping's gone. They ain't got nobody.
The current roster is, I would say, is in somewhat of a state of flux, and I mean this by as you're looking at names that generate pay-per-view buys.
I was say, because you got Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, who's been defending that belt for like a decade, it feels like. And the next card coming up, he's not even the headline; he's the co-main.
Right. Well, I mean, it's all about the fight game, though, and you have to generate it. And Demetrius he's known for his skill. He's not known for being somebody that will start trash talking and really making a scene like McGregor does. I mean, McGregor is a genius at it. Chael Sonnen is a genius at it. When they want to make some noise and move the needle, that's what they do. Lesnar is a guy that does that, even though he's had a very interesting UFC run. Yeah, since he left. I know that the last time we saw him fight was against Mark Hunt.
The UFC 200.
Right.
Yep.
So now he reappears now at the UFC 226. DC, I think both of those fighters knew that they would get a chance to call him out after the fight.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that I've talked to many, many, many fans about is how staged this felt. And this is my reaction to this. Yeah, it was staged because both of those fighters knew Brock was coming.
Now, this is the thing I'm trying to remember because I know I was watching, but it was a couple days ago. Did they come out before or after Lesnar? They made the point of showing him.
Lesnar came out first before.
Okay. So odds are, if they didn't already know, which is entirely likely, they were tipped off about it like, hey, they just showed Lesnar. He's here.
Oh, I'm sure that somebody saw him walking around backstage and said, hey, he's in the building. So I'm sure they knew what was going on. And then both of those guys know that he is a marketable name at the heavyweight division to fight.
For either guy, it would be the biggest fight of their career.
Yeah.
In terms of pay-per-view buys, money, and everything.
No, there's a lot that comes with Brock Lesnar being on a card. There's nothing against it. I mean, it sells pay-per-views.
Yeah.
It sells
tickets.
Say
what you will about the guy, he moves the needle.
Absolutely. And the minute that DC won and got on his post-fight speech, he immediately called out Lesnar.
I'll say he's living John Jones's life.
You could say.
Because John Jones, remember, the rumors were he wanted to move up to heavyweight and then fight Brock Lesnar.
This is true. I mean, this is one thing that, unfortunately for John, this is not happening in the near future, as we know right now. But with DC, yeah, he called him out. DC is one of the biggest wrestling fans you'll find in the UFC roster.
Oh, yeah. They said it on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I've seen him, highlights of him being at WrestleMania in years past.
Right.
So he's a fan. So obviously he has the chance to call out Lesnar for a fight. Why not take advantage of it?
Yeah.
I mean, albeit though, I thought for him it should have just been about him to win the belt. He's now a dual champion. But when you call Lesnar in, Lesnar's coming in and he means all business. And the minute he came in there, he cut a very NSFW promo
broke a camera.
Yes, and he broke a camera, shoving a microphone into it. And he shoved DC extremely far across that ring.
Also, yeah, I think, if I remember right, on the Ariel Helwani's show on ESPN Plus, I believe, he asked Cormier about that, and Cormier's like, yeah, he shoved me a little harder than I was expecting him to.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Lesnar is a very, very strong individual. And for their eventual fight now, which honestly, at heavyweight, who else is out there?
Nobody.
It's a very tough drop right now. I mean, I haven't heard anything about Cain Velasquez coming back.
No.
I think he would be, but he's not going to fight DC. That's not going to happen in a UFC cage.
No.
There's no chance of that happening. After that, I know Junior Dos Santos has another fight coming up. They were advertising. And there's kind of a drop now, I would say. There's some guys that are on the rise, but if you're saying the ones that are going to be fighting and generating that much buzz compared to Lesnar, no, there isn't right now at the heavyweight division. So whenever Lesnar is cleared to fight, which I believe as soon as January could possibly be the soonest.
January is the earliest. So essentially he re-entered the USADA testing pool, which meant he is eligible to fight in January.
So that makes sense if they want to do it, I would say, on the Super Bowl weekend card.
Oh, that'd be smart.
That's my guess at it, that they're going to set up the fight there. Because what other big weekend could you imagine, especially if they have the card in Vegas? They haven't announced dates past December 29th, I believe, for the remainder of the. They did post, UFC did their remaining cards for the rest of the year. And I believe the last one was December 29th in Vegas.
Yeah, they don't go too far ahead in terms of announcing things.
No, but if they decide to do a Super Bowl card, why not put Lesnar versus Cormier on there?
Smartest move they could do.
It's going to sell tickets. And for those guys, they definitely want to do it. Lesnar wants a big fight when he comes back. Title shot. The only issue I have is he jumps the line.
Yeah.
But it goes back to our point that there really is no other stars per se.
No, I mean, you're not going to give Ngannou a shot after that performance.
No, Ngannou and Lewis are down.
You're not going to give Stipe a shot. I mean, he plausibly could get a shot, but
Stipe, I think, is taking some time off, so I don't think he is, because I believe that he just is going to be having a child.
Oh, okay.
His family is. So
okay.
I don't see him.
Yeah, no, in that case, probably not.
Yeah, I don't see him coming back right away. I think he's going to take some time off and enjoy some family time, and that makes sense.
Yeah, he's earned it.
Yeah, he's definitely earned it. So going in with that, I mean, the only other one you got is maybe Alexander Volkov, but is that enough to really generate enough ticket buys per se?
Outside the diehard fans, no. No,
Curtis Blades is up there too. I mean, they do have some guys that would put on a great fight, don't get me wrong, but if you're saying you really want to generate some buzz and some hype, when you have a big star like Brock Lesnar who has crossover appeal, because you're going to get the whole WWE market.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, that's why CM Punk was on the UFC card the last go-around in Chicago.
Yeah.
Because he's a marketable name. He's a name in the sport. Brock Lesnar definitely has his own niche in the UFC / mixed martial arts. So for him to get a title shot, I might not exactly agree with it, but I can understand it.
Yeah.
And I think for UFC, it makes business a lot easier for him.
Yeah, it's one card that you don't got to worry about. Well, are we going to do necessarily our baseline money, what we want to? Well, we ain't got to worry about it now.
No, so, I mean, there was some definite storylines that came out of UFC 226, but hashtag ODPH, let us know what you think of the card moving forward. We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
Coming back for the third segment on this week's ODPH, and Pad's got some baseball news to talk about.
Boy, yes, we do. The 2018 Major League Baseball All Star Rosters were announced on Sunday on ESPN Baseball Tonight. Going to run through them and give you the starters, reserves, and pitchers. Starting over on the National League, your starters are Wilson Contreras of the Chicago Cubs at catcher, which, congratulations to him, spent a number of years in the minor league system and finally got the call up. They say there's no crying in baseball. I give you Exhibit A of his reaction when he found out.
I tell you what, if you did not get a little choked up watching that, you got to check your pulse. That was one of the best feel-good stories in sports this year.
Moving over to first base, you have Freddie Freeman of the Atlanta Braves, Javi Baez of the Chicago Cubs at second base,
Okay.
Nolan Arenado at third base of the Colorado Rockies,
All right.
Brandon Crawford of the San Francisco Giants at shortstop.
Well deserved.
And then moving to the outfield, you've got Matt Kemp of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Bryce Harper, number 2 overall vote getter of the Washington Nationals,
Okay.
and then Nick Markakis of the Atlanta Braves, which congratulations to him. It is his first
time, right?
First time at the All-Star game, and he was, up until now, the highest player in terms of number of hits without making an All-Star game.
That is incredible because I know that he's spent many years and he's been a productive player.
Yeah.
To finally get his crack at it. I mean, definitely looking at the NL All-Star team, no real shockers on there, I would say, and definitely all pretty well-deserved. Is this going to be Bryce Harper's last one on the NL roster?
To say?
Who's to say? A lot of talk about where he's going next season. But I definitely got to say the Contreras story is probably the best one of all the All-Stars right now.
Without a doubt.
With Markakis being like 1A, 1B with that.
Yes. Moving to the reserves, you have Buster Posey of the San Francisco Giants. However, he is injured, I believe, so he's being replaced by Yadier Molina of the St. Louis Cardinals.
I believe you're correct, yes.
So you've also got JT Realmuto of the Miami Marlins. You've got Paul Goldschmidt of the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yes.
At first base. Also at first base, you've got Joey Votto of the Cincinnati Reds.
Okay.
Second base, you've got the hot-hitting star player of the Atlanta Braves, Ozzie Albies, at second base.
He's crushing it right now.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Also, you've got Scooter Gennett at second base of the Cincinnati Reds. Third base, you've got Eugenio Suarez of the Cincinnati Reds. A lot of Reds representation going on here.
The Reds fly under the radar because the record is not so hot.
Yes.
But they definitely have some very quality players on there that are putting up some numbers, but they're just, you don't hear about them because of the record.
Yep. Moving, then you've got at shortstop Trevor Story of the Colorado Rockies.
Okay.
Then for outfield, you've got Charlie Blackmon of the Colorado Rockies, Lorenzo Cain of the Milwaukee Brewers, and then Christian Yelich of the Milwaukee Brewers.
Anybody you feel that got snubbed, you would say? For the NL?
Oh, not anything that immediately comes to mind. Not offhand. I mean, I know it's a little surprising. What's his name? Used to be with Pittsburgh.
McCutchen?
Yes, I was a little surprised McCutchen didn't at least make reserves, but, well, you're in the National League and you're in San Francisco. No, outside McCutchen, not really. But moving over to the pitchers for the National League, you've got Patrick Corbin of the Arizona Diamondbacks, Jacob deGrom of the New York Mets, Sean Doolittle of the Washington Nationals, Mike, and I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize in advance, Foltynewicz of the Atlanta Braves, Josh Hader of the the Milwaukee Brewers, Brad Hand of the San Diego Padres, Kenley Jansen of the Los Angeles Dodgers, John Lester of the Chicago Cubs, Miles McCullough of the St. Louis Cardinals, Aaron Nola of the Philadelphia Phillies, Max Scherzer of the Washington Nationals, and then Felipe Vasquez of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Definitely a solid lineup, top to bottom.
Now, if you're going to talk to me about ones I'm surprised didn't make the list there, Clayton Kershaw.
That is one, too, but I think he's been very injury-prone this season.
Yeah, that might be the only thing that factored in, because to my knowledge, it you know what it also may be, and this is without looking at a schedule, he might not be eligible if he's pitching on Sunday. Because the thing with Major League Baseball is if you are pitching on the Sunday before the All-Star game, so this coming Sunday, you are not eligible to pitch in the All-Star game. So that could be it.
And that's another thing, too, because if you are not playing with any incentive, like I know they finally took away the whole, like, whoever wins gets home field advantage.
Yep.
Which, I mean, I agree with. I don't think you should be playing for that. The
It
All-Star,
was a dumb reason they put it in.
It was. And it's one of the things that I think is really, I don't know, taken away a little bit from the All-Star game. That when they were trying to do that, because this is supposed to be a celebration of the season thus far.
It's supposed to be the best players in each league playing against each other. And for those who don't know, back in, what was it, 2002, I want to say, when the game was in Milwaukee, the game ended in a tie. They ran out of players. They ran out of pitchers. So they went to Bud Selig, because I don't think this had ever been done. And if it had been a long while. And they go, oh, what do we do here? Oh, it's a tie. So they're like, oh, we got to get players to try harder. So let's make it for home field advantage in the World Series.
Yeah, and I think it just kind of took a little luster from the game.
A little bit.
But, I mean, now they finally got rid of it, so it looks like a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So the NL is looking stacked, but that AL squad is looking
loaded.
It's looking loaded with some fine Yankees on that squad. But break it down for us, Pat.
So this American League roster, and I know I'm slightly biased because I'm a Yankees fan, but this American League roster looks like something I would do in MLB 18 The Show with like forced trades on and ignore budgets.
Right.
Starting with the starters, you've got Wilson Ramos of the Tampa Bay Rays starting at catcher. First base, you've got Jose Abreu of the Chicago White Sox. Second base, and the number one overall vote getter, Jose Altuve of the Houston Astros.
No brainer there.
No. Third base, you've got Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Indians. Shortstop, you have Manny Machado of the Baltimore Orioles. Moving to outfield, you've got Mookie Betts of the Boston Red Sox, Mike Trout of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and then all rise, Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees. And then DH, you've got the raking power machine that is JD Martinez. Holy moly, is he working out for them?
Absolutely. I mean, Boston and the Yankees have definitely proved to be the headline of the AL right now.
Yep.
Which, nothing against the other teams, but Houston is looking pretty dominant, and Cleveland is winning by default. And don't count out Oakland. They're still 6.5 back, as last I checked. But the AL has been pretty much driven between Boston and the Yanks. And looking at the squad, definitely reflective of it. I mean, it's well-rounded. I mean, I'm trying to look on there of saying, like, did anybody get snubbed? I can't even say yes.
I'm going to say Giancarlo to a certain degree.
You can say Giancarlo,
because he's got 20-some-odd home runs. But, again, Yankee fan.
But you can't, I was saying, as much as, you and I are both Yankee fans, I can't take away from JD Martinez.
No
way.
No.
So he's earned that spot. And Giancarlo, you never say never, because some people don't make it to the game, so who knows, he might sneak in. But I mean, that roster is looking stacked.
Yep. Moving over to the reserves,
as it should be in an All-Star voting, but still.
Moving over to the reserves, you have Salvador Perez at catcher from the Kansas City Royals, Mitch Moreland at first base from the Boston Red Sox, Gleyber Torres of the New York Yankees. Now, he is injured and will not be. He'll be there, but he won't be playing. He's being replaced by Jed Lowry of the Oakland Athletics at second base.
Okay.
Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros, Francisco Lindor at shortstop of the Cleveland Indians, Michael Brantley at outfield for the Cleveland Indians, Sin Soo Choo for outfield from the Texas Rangers, Mitch Hanger of the Seattle Mariners at outfield, and then George Springer from the Houston Astros also at outfield, and then Nelson Cruz, outfielder from the Seattle Mariners.
Not a bad squad at all.
No.
I'm trying to think if anybody sounded like they got snubbed, and I really can't think. Stanton would be the only one, but I can't argue.
But then again, it's also like Stanton's DHing half the time when he's in New York, and you've got JD Martinez who's raking balls left, right, and center.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only one I think you maybe, and note how I stress this, maybe can argue.
Yeah. Moving over to the pitchers, you've got Trevor Bauer from the Cleveland Indians, Jose Barrios of the Minnesota Twins, Aroldis Chapman of the New York Yankees, Garrett Cole of the Houston Astros, Edwin Diaz of the Seattle Mariners, J.A. Happ of the Toronto Blue Jays, Joe Jimenez of the Detroit Tigers, Craig Kimbrell of the Boston Red Sox, Corey Kluber. Wow, thank you. Wow. Of the Cleveland Indians, Chris Sale of the Boston Red Sox, Luis Severino of the New York Yankees, Blake Trinan of the Oakland Athletics, and then Justin Verlander of the Houston Astros.
Stacked.
Straight fire, pick your jaw off the floor, because there are going to be some fireballs thrown in there.
Oh, without question. I mean, that's the one thing about the All-Star game is it should be stacked. I know, but a lot of times when fan voting happens, some people are injured and can't make it on the squad. So, but looking at that, if everybody's healthy and makes it by the game time,
I'm looking at the American League pitching roster, and I'm looking at maybe about 3, 4, 5 guys. You line them up in a row, there ain't a pitch dropping below 95.
no, absolutely not.
And that's just filthy. But of course, that is not the final roster lineup. You've still got the ever famous final vote candidates, the last spot. Looking at the National League, your candidates are at first base, Jesus Aguilar of the Milwaukee Brewers, Brandon Belt at first base of the San Francisco Giants, infielder Matt Carpenter of the St. Louis Cardinals journeyman. Then you've also got infielder/outfielder Max Muncy of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and then at shortstop Trey Turner of the Washington Nationals. And as of recording, Jesus Aguilar of the Milwaukee Brewers is currently leading the vote getting. However, that is not final. You can still vote. Moving over to the final vote candidates of the American League, you've got Andrew Benintendi of the Boston Red Sox at outfield, Eddie Rosario of the Minnesota Twins at outfield, Gene Segura of the Seattle Mariners at shortstop, Andrelton Simmons of the Los Angeles Angels at shortstop, and then Giancarlo Stanton at outfield for the New York Yankees. And leading that one as of recording is Gene Segura.
There's going to be a tight race in that one.
Yep.
But, any of those guys are worthy, and especially for a lot of the smaller market teams that you don't see on TV all the time.
Yeah.
For a lot of these guys, it's great that they're acknowledging their numbers.
Let's say I'm looking at just the one that makes sense for me is Aguilar of the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, he's batting .305, 23 homers, 64 RBIs.
Yeah, how can you pass on
Holy
him?
moly.
You can't. It's a tough thing. I mean, everybody, like I said, everybody is very talented in that pool. But
Now, of course, voting for the final spot does end Wednesday, July 11th at 4 p.m. Now you go to MLB.com to vote.
definitely go check it out. Congratulations, everybody made the All-Star game. It's hard to believe the season is halfway over.
Yep.
And there's so much baseball still left to be had. A lot of moves getting talked about. I know Manny Machado and Bryce Harper are the ones that everybody's keeping an eye on if they're getting moved before the trade deadline.
I'm keeping an eye on who's going to be in the Derby. That's my favorite part of the All-Star weekend. Home run Derby, baby.
That is true, because it's always a legendary moment, especially if a hitter gets setting some records.
I would say when Aaron Judge last year broke science.
Yes.
Which that you can look that video up. They designed the Miami Marlins ballpark so that it was scientifically impossible for a batter to hit the roof, and he went and did it.
I tell you, baseball is a heck of a game to watch.
Uh-huh.
But let us know what you think about the MLB All-Star game and the players that made the rosters. We want to know. Hashtag ODPH. We're going to come back around those bases and take you home. You are listening to the ODPH.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Back on the ODPH, before we take you home, we got to talk about that local minute. Pat, what you got?
Got a little bit of Rumble Ponies news. Of course, they are on All-Star break as the Eastern League All-Star game is this Wednesday, July 11th at 7 p.m. from Trenton, New Jersey. But it's All-Star break, halfway point for the season, maybe a little bit past halfway. I'm not doing math. But looking at the standings, they're currently sitting in third place with a record of 43-44. 6 games back, not out of it, not looking great. Still plenty of time left to play. Of course, midway point, looking at some stats, Jeff McNeil is leading the team with a .327 average. Looks like 16 doubles, 3 triples, 14 homers, and 43 RBIs. Definitely hitting the ball well. And then looking at the pitching, Michael Gibbons, wrong stat there. Nabil Chrismat is leading the team in wins with an 8-5 record. 3.58 ERA in 93 innings pitched.
So that's the damage they were doing the first half of the season. So now there is, 5 All-Stars representing Binghamton going to the game?
Yep.
You got that lined up for us, Pat?
Yeah, it is Patrick Mazika, Levi Michael, Tim Tebow.
That Tim Tebow?
Yes, that Tim Tebow. David Roseboom, and Daniel Zamora.
Congratulations to those guys representing the 607 in the Eastern League All-Star game. And like I said, it's been a heck of a first season for the Ponies. I know Jeff McNeil has been lightening up, and definitely big things are coming his way. And we are very, very proud of how the team has been playing. Been down to a couple games this past weekend, too.
Yep.
And the stadium has been very, very rocking, very
Oh,
loud.
yeah.
It's always good to go to the Rumble Ponies, so shout out to them. BingRP.com for more information when the season starts back up at home. You definitely want to get down to Nice Egg Stadium and check them out. So let's start rounding those bases. I'm going to lead us off this week with a little, dare I say, motocross / extreme sports.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of throw a little curveball
A
this way.
little old school, sort of.
Sort of. Travis Pastrana, who, if you don't know, is a very well-known athlete in the X Sports name, franchise, however you want to define it. He definitely does a lot of extreme sports.
He's put his body through some stuff.
Absolutely. And from a very young age. So if you've been following anything about the X Games, he is a well-known name in that field.
It's staple.
He decided to do something this past Sunday where he triplicated Evel Knievel, the iconic stuntman,
Daredevil.
showman, Daredevil. To try putting Evel Knievel into words is very tough because he was a lot of things wrapped up in one.
Mm-hmm.
He decided to try triplicating 3 of his iconic jumps.
Some of which almost killed him.
Absolutely. And he nailed all 3, jumping over 52 crushed cars. He cleared, that was 143 feet, 192 feet, jumping over 16 Greyhound buses.
Which they kept noting during the broadcast, because I saw this along with you. They kept noting that the buses he jumped while they were Greyhounds, like Evel Knievel did, they were bigger and larger than what Evel Knievel jumped in his day.
Yes, and that is just crazy, too. And the craziest thing was jumping 149 feet to clear the fountains of Caesar's Palace. This information is coming from ESPN.com, by the way.
Which that is even... Now, the thing is, with the Caesar's Palace, Knievel didn't do it in his day. It's only gotten harder in the 50 years since he attempted it because, as you can attest to, having been to Las Vegas yourself, they've added some stuff around there.
It's definitely a feat still to this day. It's nothing to sneeze at. And when Knievel did it at that time, Vegas was still growing. And now it is just a whole different animal out there.
I'll say what? That he only had a 200-foot run-up to get to, like, what was it? He had to get to 70-plus miles an hour?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. It was absurd. And the lead-up to it was insane because he did the first 2 stunts from someplace. I'm going to guess it was right, because I don't think they ever showed where quite exactly it was, but it was just in or outside of Vegas. It was right outside of Vegas that he did the first 2 stunts, but then he had to go to Caesar's Palace for the final one. Mm-hmm. And he didn't like hop on a bus and they brought the motorcycle or the motorcycle was already there. No, he rode the motorcycle with a police escort down the Las Vegas Strip, which was something awesome to see because he's riding down and he was wearing a suit much like Evel Knievel wore, if it was not an exact replica.
Yeah. And
he's riding down the Vegas Strip. He's high-fiving fans. He took selfies with people. He was doing burnouts with cops right behind him. It had to be a dream come true for him.
Well, it's one of those things, especially in Vegas, where, Evel Knievel is just synonymous with showmanship. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever been out to Vegas, shout out to all our listeners out in Las Vegas, too, by the way. It is one of the best places in the world to go visit. And just to see all the entertainment and the spectacle and just as bright lights and big city defined.
And it really says something about a person when, well after they're done competing, and this is true for any sport, but especially Evel Knievel, who stopped, what, early, mid, late 70s? Mm-hmm. I was not born for several years after. I never got to see Evel Knievel perform his stunts until the age of the internet and YouTube became a thing. But when I grew up, even I knew who Evel Knievel was. I had never really seen anything, but I knew who he was. So that really speaks to the impact a person has on not just society and pop culture, but life in general when he transcends generations.
Oh, absolutely, because what he did for his time, should never be forgotten. He was a daredevil when there was no daredevils.
Well, say, what was it? They were telling the story. He went to do one of his tricks and looked at deadpan in the camera and goes, "This is the last time you're ever going to see me perform. I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm never going to do it again." And then like 8 months later, oh, hey, by the way, I'm doing it again.
And the thing about him is, I believe, I can't remember which one. I want to say it was when he did the jump in Wembley. He knew he was having issues and wasn't going to be able to clear it, but he's like, everybody came to see me watch. I'm not going to let the fans down. And he did the jump, and I believe that's the one that he did crash. He'd land. He did not go according to plan, if I'm not mistaken. To just even be that much of an entertainer and a showman and just, dare I say, he's the first extreme athlete. Without question.
Yeah.
To see his legacy still to this day is an influence on everybody that you see doing the X Games, doing skateboarding, doing extreme motocross, doing anything that is just DIY as much as it can be for sports. And to see the influence still there, and the ratings I believe was 3.5 million watching too.
Wow.
So it didn't go unnoticed
No.
by any means.
No.
That there's still, you hear stories about back in the day. This used to be on ABC's Wild World of Sports.
Yeah, it was like I think they interviewed the Sun at one point, and out of every Wild World of Sports episode, Evel Knievel had like the top 4 highest rated ones.
Yeah, without question, because it's still a spectacle to see, and it's still, this is a life or death situations that people are doing.
I'll say, this ain't, the circus you're walking the high wire and there's a net underneath you to catch. This goes wrong, you're dead.
Especially the Caesars jump.
Yeah.
The room for error on that was next to nothing.
Even then, even more so now.
Yeah. And just to see how Travis pulled it off, shout out to him.
Yeah.
Ice water in the veins, but you know what? He looked about as happy as I think I've seen anybody just to entertain fans. It wasn't even so much about him as just he put on a show. He honored Evil in his way, and you know what? Shout out to you, sir.
Yep.
Job well done. If you got the chance to watch it, definitely give it a look because it's worthwhile. Pat, take us home. What you got?
Well, we don't normally talk soccer or football if you're one of our international listeners because that is normally JR's forte.
Shout out to the Sound Guy Galore, JR. He and his brand new baby boy and wife are celebrating their family time right now, watching some World Cup.
I'll say, rumor has it, I heard the baby is already doing the Skol chant.
Yes.
It's already in full effect, so no surprises there. But we got to talk a little bit of soccer because we are coming up on the World Cup final. Now, one of the two teams was decided today when France beat Belgium 1-0, moving to the final for the first time since, I believe, 2006, if I read my stats right.
Shout out to all the listeners in France right now, too.
Yep, and then your other matchup, which is on Wednesday, July 11th at 2 p.m. If you're living in the States, that's Eastern time. You've got Croatia versus, bring it home, England.
I tell you what, it's going to be some fun matches to watch. And like we say, we don't usually cover it. That's JR's job. But JR is a little busy with being a brand new dad. So
if I had to
has a pass.
If I had to pick a team I want to see play France in the final, I want to see England.
I do too.
Old school.
I want
little something there. Little pre-existing rivalry between the two countries. Old history.
But the World Cup is just truly something to watch. And if you're part of a fan of a team that's playing in it, there's nothing like it. So shout out to all the teams still in it. It's going to be a heck of a finale to watch.
And of course, the third place game takes place on July 14th. That will be between Belgium and whoever loses in the England-Croatia game. And the final is Sunday, July 15th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Fox.
So definitely set your DVRs, make plans to watch it. It's going to be a spectacle to see.
No doubt.
That's all we got for this week. So for Padawan J,
thank you.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We'll see you next time.